our best. I've got our friend Marty here again today, so I'll hand you straight over because I'm not too sure how long my phone's going to last. Marty?
Yeah, well, good morning to you all, and I thought I'd share some true and funny stories. We all need to have a bit of humour, and we certainly need our spirits lifted in these days. And as I say, they're all true stories. And the first one's about my dad, Gerald, and he was a real character. Gerald, he worked for the buses. He was in the army for a while. That's him in the late 1947, and then he went on bus conducting, and that was one of his badges he had on his uniform. Anyway, he always liked. He could talk to anyone. He could talk to anyone, anywhere. Very funny man, real character. And because he had uniforms in the army and on the Midland Red, he always admired them. When he was on holiday, passing through Holland and Germany, he would notice the uniforms, and he said, "Look how smart they are, Mark, this, that and the other." Anyway, he would talk to anyone, and he would, particularly people with foreign accents, he would home in on. Well, in Leicester, he's doing his shopping, and he's walking across Asda car park, and he sees this high-ranking American official uniform, like really smart, and he's like a moth to the flame. He homes in on him. And now, bear in mind, not everyone walking around in these uniforms are what they actually claim to be and make out to be. So he goes over to him and he says, "Excuse me," he says, "how does one address you, sir?" And the man turns to him and he says, "General." General. Oh, absolutely brilliant. I mean, just like a comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, and in all seriousness, my dad thought, for that moment in time, it's a general. And then, as he pondered it and reflected and walked away, he said to himself, "No, he can't be.
No.
He can't be a general, because he'd have a car and staff and different things." And a very funny story, that one. I told that to a mate at work, and he said, "You know, Martin, that's one of the funniest things I've heard." Well, when I was a younger man, and you'll see how all these stories sort of link in. When I was a younger man, I liked listening to country music and folk music, bluegrass music, and I was a big fan at the time, in the late 70s, of the Dallas, the TV program. You remember it? Some may remember, with the J.R.U. in and all that. And
Sue Ellen and Bobby and all that. Yeah.
And I took myself off for a holiday in 1980, right? And I thought I'd go and see the South Fork Ranch while I was in that Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I found out where it actually was, and it was in a place called Plano, not too far out of downtown Dallas. And I mean, it's different now. There's probably museums and things associated and more touristy. But this was at the time they were sort of filming, doing the series, and it was October of 1980. Now, here's a couple of snaps I took. That's from downtown Dallas, and this one is me sitting on the fence of South Fork Ranch.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm outside. Did you get that one?
Yes, I got that.
And I'm outside the ranch and taking pictures and wondering how I could get a bit nearer. Well, this electrician's van with these two hippie-looking guys in it pulls up, and I get talking with them. And one says to me, he says, "Are you from England?" I said, "Yes, I'm from England." He says, "Hank," he says, "this boy's from England." He says, "Wow, for real?" And he says, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I'd like to, if possible, to get a bit nearer to the house, take a few pictures." He says, "You want to go inside the house?" I said, yeah. So he says, okay, he says, put on this electrician's belt, put this hat on, and we just saw a police car and pull up, but we'll keep an eye on it in the distance. Put this electrician's belt on, this hat, don't say nothing, you're with us. I says, fine, let's go in then. So they had electronic gate, and the gate swings open, and we go down the drive right in up to Southport Grounds. The door opens and in we go. And as you go in, there's big oil paintings of JR and all the actors and actresses. And we go out up the stairs on the balcony, and they do some work. I just stand around trying to look busy, you know. And so we finished the work, and or rather, you know, they finished the work. But by all appearances, I was appearing as an apprentice electrician. You see what I mean? I was with them, and they wouldn't have known the difference.
No.
And so on the same holiday, I'm walking down a stretch of road leading into downtown Dallas, and this car pulls up with a guy from New York accent, and he wants to know the way to a certain place, you see, because he thinks this guy must be from Texas in his in his Stetson hat and his cowboy boots. And I said, no mate, no, I'm from England. He says, oh, I just thought you must be from Texas, dressed like that. I said, no. Anyway, the last story, in the 1990s, I'm in Leicester in Habitat. Remember the chain department store? Furniture.
Yeah, Terence Conway.
Yeah, and some of them had different floors, 3 or 4 floors. And I went up, it was a weekday, I was fairly dressed smartly, and I was on the 2nd or 3rd floor, and there was nobody there. There was nobody on the department. And I was standing around, and this chap comes up, and he launches into what he wanted. What he wanted, you know, it's this dimensions in this type of wood. Now I've done the measurements, and he's talking, and I'm stringing him along just for a little bit, you know, not too much, but just stringing him along. And he's giving all the dimensions, the quality of the wood, and how it will fit, and what he wants, and can I. And I says, excuse me, I says, I don't work here. and he had a bit of a laugh. But you see, the point of all these stories is that reality is not always as we perceive it to be.
No, it's not. No.
And in all them stories, my dad, for that moment in time, thought the man was an American general.
Yeah.
And he wasn't.
Yeah.
And the people at Southport Ranch, if they'd have glanced to look at me, would not have even considered I wasn't an electrician's apprentice.
No.
And the guy from New York thought this guy must be from Texas. and the chap coming into Habitat thought to himself, he must be the shop assistant because there's nobody else there. Yeah. And even on the protest, even on the protest in Trafalgar Square, there was this big monument where there's like lions and things, and people were getting up and walking around on it at the end of Trafalgar Square. And so I was helped up, and I was there with some other people, and this guy walks around the corner and he says to me, "Are you David Icke?"
I can see the resemblance.
I said, no, I think he's down there on the front.
Well, bless.
But you see, all of these incidents, all of these things, you know, and in view of what we're going through with everyone in the pantomime masks and playing the part as though they're protecting themselves from this deadly plague.
It's illusion.
If it wasn't so serious, if it wasn't so evil and sinister, you'd have to laugh at it as some sort of screwball comedy from the 1930s.
Yes.
It's utter madness.
It is madness,
They're walking
yeah,
around
yeah.
in these things as though, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's not any more reality than any of those stories.
Well, have you noticed people have stopped laughing and now they don't smile very often when you see them when they're walking
yeah.
past?
Yeah.
It's serious points that you're making. You know, it is what you perceive is very often illusion. You know,
Yeah.
it's you project what you expect to see onto things, and that's how you perceive it. But people have stopped smiling. People have stopped laughing. You don't see kids running about now giggling.
Yeah.
None of them kind of things. I mean, where I live, Litchfield, it used to be a very happy place. People used to say good morning to them. Well, they still do, but they don't do it with a smile.
That's
And
it.
it's almost begrudging now. It's as if all the joy has been sucked out of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's all dark stuff, isn't it?
It's very, very dark, yeah. For as I keep saying, and I know
It's
you
a
feel
war
the
on
same
joy,
way.
isn't it?
It's a war on joy, but it's. I've never denied that a biological threat exists. I've never said this does not exist. I've always said it exists. It exists at this level, and the way it's been dealt with is a level 1,000 times
Yeah,
more than.
of course.
So you can only say there's some agenda behind this. Also, battery cream lawyer, I know, but nevertheless, it's obvious you don't need to be a ship's captain to know when it's sinking. You know, so it's. That's it.
Yeah, good.
So we leave it there then, Marty?
Yeah.
Okay then.
bless you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
Did it all go on?